Welcome to the Mama Time Podcast, where we dive into all things wellness to support and empower you on your journey through pregnancy and motherhood. I'm Charlotte, your host, a proud mama of 3 and a pre- and postnatal yoga teacher. My mission is simple, to help mothers like you feel your best. In this podcast, I'll share practical tools, heartfelt stories, and nurturing practices to help you reconnect with yourself through the ever-changing seasons of motherhood. Because while you're busy caring for everyone else, I'm here to remind you of something so important. You matter too. You are worthy of prioritizing your well-being, and when you do, it creates a ripple effect that transforms not just your life, but the lives of those around you. Along with sharing my own experiences and resources, I'll be chatting with inspiring fellow mamas who are passionate about supporting other women. Together, we'll have honest, heart-centered conversations about their journeys and the transformative tools they rely on to thrive in motherhood so you can thrive too. So take a deep breath, get comfortable, and let's get into today's episode. Are you ready? Today on the podcast, I'm so excited to introduce you to Priya Campbell, the founder of Cove Wellness. Priya is a wellness coach and NLP practitioner who brings a beautiful blend of mindset work and energetics to help mothers reconnect with themselves, take aligned action, and create a lifestyle where self-care feels more achievable and easy. In this conversation, Priya shares her own journey through motherhood, the identity shifts that came after having her babies, and how these powerful mindset tools helped pull her out of patterns that were no longer serving her so she could become the next best version of herself. Whether you're in the early days of postpartum or navigating the daily demands of motherhood, this episode is a reminder that you're allowed to put yourself first. You'll walk away from this conversation feeling inspired, seen, and empowered to take gentle but powerful steps toward a version of motherhood that honors you too. Let's dive in. So welcome, Priya. Thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today. How are you?
Thank you. Good, thank you. I'm so excited to be here and have a chat to
Yay,
you.
me too. It's going to be good. We were joking before that this has been in the works for a while, so it's nice that we've finally been able to sit down.
It has. That's just what happens when you're a mother,
Yes,
hey?
absolutely. So I want to get into all of the incredible work that you do. But before we get into that, I want to hear about your own journey through motherhood and what led you on this path. Tell us a little bit about that.
Sure, yeah. Well, prior to becoming a mum, I was very active. I was always into the health and fitness space. I was an exercise physiologist and have been in that space for a while. So coming into motherhood, I felt well prepared, shall we say, in terms of like being able to look after my own health and wellness after having children. And my pregnancies were all quite straightforward. I've got 3 children, and the first pregnancy was actually an emergency cesarean, though. So similar to your experience, where it was just a really long labor, and then he was just in a bit of an awkward position. So I had got right up to the pushing stage, and then they decided to call it. And so that was quite an eye-opening experience and not something I was prepared for really going into it. But, you know, you just do what needs to be done in the moment. And so we did that, and he was great, and everyone was happy and healthy, and we got to go home. Yeah, straightforward, like the 3 days, you know, that you stay in hospital and then home. And then my other 2 births were natural VBACs. So yeah, which was quite cool to have. I just knew going in with the second, I was like, I really want to try this again. And I just felt more connected to my body, I guess, that second time round. And yeah, which made that process and the whole experience was really beautiful, having come out from that sort of chaotic, rushed emergency surgery situation. And then the other 2 were, those natural VBACs. So I feel grateful that I've had both experiences, I guess, and I can understand when I work with mothers that I've had both, sides of the coin in terms of that delivery.
So you'd have that experience both ways, which is so good to draw on because it is quite different. I mean, I'm assuming because I've only had C-sections, but yes.
Yes, yeah, I don't think you can, it's a bit like even just being a mother as well, right? You can't actually speak into the experience until you've actually been through it and really understood what it's like.
Yeah, I bet. And then how did you
Yes.
find postpartum?
Yeah, so postpartum, I mean, I was confident going into it, leading up to it. And I thought I would be all right and I would be able to look after myself. And I'm a pretty positive
Mm.
person in general. So I was like, I've got this. And then it was a real shock. It was just, it's the most beautiful thing and the most life-changing, challenging time all at the once,
Yes, that's such a
really.
good way to
So
describe it. It's all the highs and all the lows.
it's like all the highs and all the lows, definitely. And so it was a real eye-opener for me after having my first, he's almost 7, that there was a lot to
Hmm.
learn. Like I'm sure there's no handbook for when you go home from the hospital and you don't know what you don't know. So it's not until something came up that you're like, oh my goodness, I need to know about this and then this. You've got the little bits and pieces that you learn beforehand. But I feel like so many mothers as well, you're so concentrated on the pregnancy
Yes.
and how the birth is going to go and making sure you've got your hospital bag packed and all that stuff and you're like, I'll deal with the rest when the time comes. And
I can relate to
so
that.
then the
Yep.
time came, yeah, and it was a bit like treading water. There was literally, which is the same for everyone, but like one thing after another that you need to learn about. And you think you've mastered one thing and then something else, pops up. And so it was just a constant learning evolution. And I think a lot of mothers could relate to as well that like then you just get put to the back burner
Mhm.
because so much of your day and your time is spent learning and looking after this little human that you become less of a priority, your wellness becomes less of a priority, and you're just doing everything you can to, yeah, support this new little human that you've got. That, yeah, that was the real game changer for me. I was like, what I thought I was going to be able to do and continue looking after myself and that it was all going to be great was actually a really challenging
Mm.
time. And then the days ticked on, the months ticked on, even years, and I still wasn't able to fully get back into that consistent and great wellness routine that I had prior to giving birth.
And that's such a journey itself. Like you've got your pregnancy journey and your postpartum journey, but yeah, finding a way back to figuring out who you are in this season in terms of everything, but specifically wellness is its
Completely.
own journey because you now are juggling something completely different that pulls from every part of your life and like just trying to find a crumb of time for yourself.
Absolutely, completely. And what I found is that I spent so much time actually, now that I reflect on it, so much time trying to go back to exactly what I'd been doing in the
Mm.
past. Like I was like, I have to get back to that exact routine that I was doing. I have to get back to doing the 45-minute workout, followed by this, followed
Yeah.
by that, when actually motherhood changes you. You can't go back to anything you were doing beforehand in terms of, yourself and your wellness. You become a different
Yeah.
person. And you've got to reconnect again with yourself and your priorities change, your values change. And so it's all about, for me, it was realizing
Yeah.
that, bringing awareness to that, and then slowly building up that reconnection, what's important and what can wellness look like for me now.
Yes.
And again, that changed when I only had one kid, and then it changed after the second, and it's changed now again after the
Because
third.
so your oldest
So
is
it's just sort of
7, and then how old are your other kids?
7 and then almost 5,
Yeah.
and then I've got a 1-year-old.
Yeah. Okay. So you had the two kind of close
So I've got
together.
quite
Yeah.
yes, then needed a good little break after
Yeah. Oh,
that. He
yeah.
was a COVID baby
Yeah. I
in
get that.
between. Yes. So
Oh,
that was a different challenge in itself. And then, yeah, and then a little 1-year-old now. So,
and it's
and again, how I've approached it each time has been different.
because you're
Yeah,
in a different place in your life with every kid, like, and it kind of throws you again. But at least after the
completely.
first, you kind of have that ability to realize, okay, I've adapted before, and this adaptation looks different this
Yes,
time. But you've at least got that, I guess, ingrained trust in yourself that, like, okay, I'll be able to do this again.
definitely. And that's it. And it's just building the self-trust over
Mm.
time. And once you start taking the action, you become more confident in yourself. And then you've got some clarity. And then that helps you move forward and, remain
Yeah,
consistent.
that's so true.
Yeah.
So what actions did you take? So you were kind of trying to figure that out, trying to do the same things you were doing before. At what point, did you kind of
Yes.
stop and say, okay, this isn't working? And then, what did you do from
Yeah.
there?
Yeah. So it was after my second boy. So I had two now at the time, probably like 4 and 2-year-old. And I had been doing bits and pieces. I was trying to get back into it, and then it would fall by the wayside again, and you do a little bit, and then I just couldn't pick up that consistency
Mm.
piece. And I'd always really looked forward to motherhood, and I always had this maternal instinct, so I really wanted to enjoy motherhood, but I found myself, for better, I'm not sure what the right terminology is here, but not hating it at all, but it was a really difficult and challenging
Mm.
time. And so I was like, I really want to love it. And it's because I wasn't pouring into myself. I wasn't giving myself any attention, love, care. I didn't even really see myself as a person, to be honest, during those first, 3 or 4 years of having those two boys. And so what I found actually changed the way that they looked at life was I came across something called Neuro-Linguistic Programming. And so then I studied to be an NLP practitioner. And so neuro is about the brain, linguistic is about the language that we speak, like the words we use. And then programming looks at our behavioral patterns. So it's all about, mindset, the unconscious mind. And it's a coaching approach that looks at our brain, our language, and our behavioral patterns, and how that really influences our experiences and actions every single
Mm.
day. And so when I took that, and then I was like, I'm having issues over here with my wellness habits. And so much of our day is run by our subconscious mind. And so I was like, hang on, this is really something important. And, we've got our mindset where our thoughts are so powerful,
Mm.
and we have the opportunity to create our reality via our thoughts. So thoughts lead to feelings, feelings lead to actions, actions lead to results. So if you backtrack and like, why am I not getting the results that I'm after? And if we backtrack through there, we actually need to start with, what thoughts am I thinking? And this is where it comes back to our mindset. And so I was like, I really want to dive into this more. And then learning more about how important our mindset and that subconscious mind work is it was life changing. It allowed me to approach my life and my wellness with a whole new lens, and is what eventually led to more consistent wellness for
Oh,
me.
that's so beautiful. I love that journey. It's so interesting. And it sounds
It is, yeah.
simple, but it's so layered to
Yes.
really pull back those layers and get honest about those thoughts. It can be really challenging. How did you get to that point where you really started to see a difference with that?
So it was just more about really, so for example, it's a shift in perspective. It's a shift in, as we're going through life, where everyone is seeing it through their own reality. And so I like to think about it as you're wearing a specific sort of pair of glasses, and you've got the lens that you see life and how you do life. And then once you become aware of, oh, hang on, there's a different way to approach this, or a different way of thinking about this. And then you've got to really come back to, what are those daily thoughts that I'm
Mm.
having? And what are those limiting beliefs that I might be having that are holding me back from taking action? And so it was about firstly becoming aware of my thoughts and what is actually going to create
Mm.
change. And then knowing that I had the power to do this, because so often, and there's a core principle of NLP is cause and effect. So, and I feel this really fits into the motherhood journey well, because so often we place blame outside of ourselves for not being able to take care of our own self and our own
Yes,
wellness.
absolutely.
And it's not even something that you do sort of consciously, really. You're not sitting there going, I do not need to take care of
Yeah.
myself. You want to, but there's something stopping you. And so it's so often we're placing the blame outside ourselves, and we're just running on autopilot, and we are blaming our external
Yes.
circumstances. And so that's being at effect rather than being at cause. We're blaming the husband not being home. We're blaming the kids that don't sleep through the night, the house that needs to be cleaned all the time. And as soon as we place blame outside ourselves, we become disassociated, and we cannot create the change that we are so
Yeah.
desperately craving. And so to create that real change, we need to be at cause. And so being at cause is taking responsibility for where you are in life. So where you are right now in life is the result of all the choices that you've made, consciously or
Yep.
unconsciously, that has led you to this point. And so that's one of the things that I work on with the mothers that I work with is it's just a mindset shift really at the end of the day. It's not this big complicated process that we need to work through, but it's just a really simple shift of how can I be at cause? How can I step into my personal power and take responsibility for where I am now?
Mm.
And then it's just, first of all, becoming aware of that. And that's just a way of doing life then. And then you're changing the lens that you're seeing life through. Yeah. So being at cause is about really taking that responsibility. And instead of placing it outside of yourself, realizing that it's actually always within you. And that was something big for me. I always used to look outside of myself for the answers
Yeah.
to why I wasn't being consistent with my wellness. And, oh, well, when this changes, I'll be able to do this. Or when the hubby's home more, then I'll have more time. But that can go on for years. And it did go on for
Yeah.
years for me. So it was a good 4 or 5 years of this yo-yo up and down, not being able to be consistent and not really enjoying life to the fullest.
Yeah.
We're just sort of on this autopilot as mums, and the days go by and the weeks and the months and the years. And you're placing blame outside of yourself quite constantly instead of just, if you really want to make change, look internally.
Mm.
And then once you start to shift this internal world, then your outer world, your outer reality will begin to change.
That's so powerful. And it's really empowering too, because there is a lot that is outside of our control in motherhood. Absolutely. And I
Completely.
think you're so right. We spend so much time focusing on that and it just becomes a habit. But
It does,
yeah,
absolutely. And it doesn't really change anything at
no,
the
it
end of the day.
doesn't.
And this is the other thing to be aware of with that. There's something called secondary gains. So although you're not consciously aware of, what you're saying, by sitting in that victim mentality and allowing yourself to be a victim of your circumstances, you're actually gaining something from it,
Mm.
which makes you feel like you just want to keep doing it. And so that might be like, support from mothers group. So if you go to a mothers group and we're consistently having a little whinge about our husbands, for example, that feels really good in the moment because you're getting that justification, you're getting the support in that
Yeah.
moment, and you're feeling validated in how you're feeling and how you're thinking. So it's about being aware of
Yeah.
that and realizing that, oh, hang on, I'm gaining this from not making this change. And that's why I feel so comfortable staying in this
Yeah. Even
situation.
though it's maybe not what your conscious mind wants, you're still sitting in
Absolutely.
it. Yeah. Yeah. That's really
Yeah. And you're
powerful.
like, what? Yes. Yeah. So it's about, then taking that step further and thinking, what is my subconscious mind actually doing? And because it's just sitting there running the show and it's got these beliefs that we've learnt from, our imprint years, which are those 0 to 7 years in childhood. And so it's about discovering what limiting beliefs we might have sitting in our subconscious mind that are actually ruling our day-to-day actions and behaviors and thoughts. And so for me growing up, my mum, love her to bits. She just did everything for
Mm-hmm.
us. And I, to this day, cannot remember a moment where I saw her have any time for herself or do any self-care for herself. And so then I took that belief on. I grew up with the belief that we had to put everyone else
Yeah.
first before ourselves. And then so I'm not consciously saying I don't want to take time for myself, but subconsciously I'm running this program, this outdated program now, which I've carried into my adult life that says I need to prioritize everyone else before myself to be a good
Yes.
mum, essentially. And this is something that people are not really aware of, but it is ruling how they're moving through their days. And this is essentially preventing them from taking action with their wellness and creating those results that they're desperately
Yeah.
craving.
Yeah. It is so empowering. And It's such a big shift. And like it sounds simple the way we talk about it, just backtrack, look at your thoughts.
Yes.
But I just want to acknowledge like when
Yeah.
you are in the trenches of motherhood, like when you're sleep deprived, making any sort of big mindset shift is amazing, but it's also really, it can be really challenging to take those steps. So I just want to acknowledge anyone who's listening to this and feeling like, oh, I can conceptually
Absolutely.
understand that and I get it, but I'm just not there yet. Yeah. How do you
Definitely.
walk people through
And
that?
I did this, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I can so sympathize. I mean, I did this for years, and it's just you get so stuck in your own little bubble, and you're in this like autopilot, just sort of survival mode, to be honest, of where there is literally so much that you need to do and learn every day just to like keep your little babies
Yeah.
alive and well. And that is so
Yes, it's
consuming
all
in
consuming.
itself. It is, and I did that for years, and I completely can relate to how that just, yeah, how that situation is. And it wasn't till I was like, there has to be a better way to this because I don't want to keep going like this for another like 5, 10, 15
And even
years.
that simple
And then
mindset
it was
shift of
just,
you just pausing and saying, hey, there has to be a better way.
yeah,
I think that's the game
yeah,
changer right there. Like, even just
totally.
having the
Yeah,
openness to look at, okay, how can I do this better? That moment is so
yes,
powerful. So, sorry, I just wanted to stop you and acknowledge that,
yes.
but continue.
No, totally. And that either comes from the mother themselves, they've reached that breaking point of like, and they're able to just have that little moment with themselves and be like, hang on, there needs to be a better
Yes.
way. Or maybe, you hear it from a friend or, yeah, another mother that suggests that, oh, maybe you could, yeah, do it this way. And then that just opens up.
Yes.
There is a whole new way of doing life
Yeah.
essentially and doing motherhood where you can step back into being the main character in your
Mm.
life because that just gets pushed to the side and we are just we are just going through the motions and we don't even recognize that we're sort of a person in the end, that we need to take care of ourselves. And again, it sounds so easy now that I'm on this side of
Mm.
it, but it's just about becoming aware. It's just about drawing awareness
Yes.
to it to begin with, because we can't change what we're not aware of. We don't know what we
Yeah.
don't know. And so at some point, yeah, then this is what I love helping mothers. It's not, you don't need to do this enormous, big change work to begin with. It's these little simple shifts and just becoming aware of how important, like, essentially your thoughts are at the end of the day. As mums, we are alone with our thoughts for such a big portion
Yes.
of our days. And it's really easy to get stuck in the negative thoughts and the victim mentality. And absolutely, like, I get it. Like, my babies were thankfully quite, I'm going to say, easy to raise in terms of we didn't have any um, like
Yeah.
reflux issues or those sort of things, moving through. So it was sort of a bit of a textbook um, journey with my 3 kids, which I'm grateful for. But I can understand how when you can so be in the trenches, and regardless of what it is, maybe you do have some more serious health issue going on with your baby or you don't. But for everyone, you can feel like you're in the
Mm.
trenches. And it's just about wanting to make that
Yes.
change and then becoming aware of the little shifts that you can do and then the
Yeah.
repetition.
So I want to come back to those little shifts, but I also want to backtrack a little bit
Yeah.
into your journey. So you started implementing this for your own journey with your own wellness, from what you were
Yeah.
learning with NLP. And then how did you create your business around this? Like, what did that shift look like? I'd love to hear about it.
Yeah. So before I did my NLP, I was teaching Pilates. So I at other studios and I had a little home studio as well because I wanted to create this space where mothers could come and take some time for themselves. And they were able to bring their babies too if they
Yeah,
wanted
beautiful.
to. So they could have this space where it was, yeah, where it was somewhere where they could come for them and do something for them. And while that was lovely in the moment and they really enjoy that 45 minutes or hour or whatever it was, I found that they did the exercise or they did the movement, and then the rest of their time, though, there was still this sort of feeling of being a little bit deflated, the struggle, the overwhelm, they're still stuck on the
Mm,
autopilot. So although they're taking some time out for themselves and they're doing the movement or doing the exercise, as we're all told that
yeah.
we need to, there was something bigger.
Mm,
There was something bigger that I could see was the issue here that needed to be addressed. And that was the overarching mindset, this subconscious mind work that really impacts our
mm,
reality, because they were doing what they were told that they should do and enjoying it in the moment. But then there was more to it. It wasn't just about doing the exercise. And so that's where I shifted from just doing the Pilates classes to really becoming more of a wellness coach and looking at wellness as an
mm.
umbrella. And how can I bring in the tools and strategies from NLP and really help these mothers make, consistent and long lasting change
Yes.
from going from the autopilot life to actually creating, sustainable and aligned action with what was important. And then there was these little shifts, and then you just saw that they started enjoying life more and you're just
Amazing.
naturally more positive and you're able to deal with situations better.
Yes.
Yeah. And then that feeds through to your kids as well. And so that was a big thing for me as well. I didn't want my little girl, who's 1, to grow up and have the same beliefs that I have from my mum now.
Yes.
So I was like, I need to create this shift and create this change so that she can grow up seeing that I am taking care of myself. And that doesn't need to mean that you're not looking after
Yes.
them. It doesn't need to take away from that. There is a way for it to all work
Yeah,
together.
absolutely.
And that's what I love helping mums see and
Yeah.
discover.
I am so on board with you with that because it all works together, like you're
Yes,
better for you, you're better for them. They get to see you doing
yes,
whatever practices those are for you, and that just becomes normal to them. So it's good for
absolutely.
them to
Yes,
see you because they just understand, okay, mom needs this time, but then that just grows up being their normal, that
yes,
okay, people take time to do things for themselves, and then they can more easily implement that into their own lives as they get older.
absolutely.
Mm,
Yes, and so that's where it's creating the change between the normal that I saw growing up, yeah, and which is what I'm working through now. Yeah, so it can be different for, yeah, how she sees it, and it will just become her normal, and that'll be her belief. But that's just as important to maintain that self-care throughout
yeah.
motherhood.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love that. I love that ripple effect. I think it's such an important thing to touch on.
Yes,
And so,
absolutely.
in the work that you do with your clients now, when you're starting out with someone in the beginning, what are some little tools that you might give them to just sort of start to become aware of that inner dialogue?
Yeah, completely. So there's the mindset tools where to start with, I just like to get them to like audit their daily
Mm,
thoughts, to be honest, because so often our subconscious is ruling, our day-to-day thoughts, beliefs, actions, and we're not even aware that this is happening. So it's like, what thoughts am I actually having on the daily? And how am I thinking about myself? How am I even considering myself? Am I even, yeah, talking to
yes.
myself? And then it's, what thoughts am I having to my wellness? Am I being a victim? Am I just looking for those? And I don't want to say, but they are more or less just excuses at the end
Mm-hmm.
of the day when we're placing the blame outside ourselves. So to start with, it's just like small mindset shifts. And it might be a little bit of some hypno work, meditations, and it's looking at the language that they use as well. So it's going from, I don't have time, I can't do this, to, okay, so what can
Yeah.
we do? And again, it's really simple shifts, but it's just becoming aware of how can I change the words that I'm saying? How can I change my
Yeah.
language? How can I change my thoughts? Yeah. And then as soon as you're more aware, then instantly you can replace those thoughts with a better belief.
Yes.
So say, for example, like, we're very used to saying, I don't have time for self-care because I've got my kids with me
Yeah.
all the time. And you can keep telling yourself that, or we can start to recognize that and then replace that belief with, I have 15 minutes every day for
Yes.
myself, because I don't have time as a belief. And we want to say, is that ultimately true? Like, is it ultimately true that you do not have time in your
Mm,
days? No, we all have the same amount of time in our days. And it's just about, what it comes down to is our
yeah.
priorities. So if you really want to prioritize something and it's important enough to
Yeah.
you, then you'll make time for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's just that mindset shift that allows you to see like, okay, so then the new belief is I have 15 minutes for myself every
Yes.
day. And then it's just about repeating that to really reinforce that
Yeah,
action.
because it is hard if you've been telling yourself, oh, I don't have time,
It's so
I
hard.
don't have time, shifting that is difficult. And I think
It's really
to like,
difficult. Yeah. And then you've just got to
yeah,
build
from there. But like you said before, and I think I have done this as well too. So I just want to highlight this. But yeah, so you were saying, if it wasn't like a 45-minute workout before that you were trying to do, that sort of derailed you. So I think holding ourselves to our previous standards, having that sort of all or nothing approach can be really ineffective as well. But if we get honest with ourselves and we're like, okay, well, how much time do I have? I don't have 45 minutes. That doesn't exist anymore. But now I've gone to the other extreme saying I have no time. And then you sort of meet in the middle, like, okay, it's not the same as it used to be, but this is what it is. And I'm going to focus on those 15 minutes. Again, it's just a really powerful shift to, like you said, just focusing on what you can, not what you can't.
Absolutely. Yes. And I was so guilty of doing that as
No,
well.
me
Like I went
too. Me
years
too.
putting off my exercise and not doing it and saying I didn't have time because I couldn't fit that
Yes.
hour in, or I couldn't. And I was like, and my husband would be like, just, you can just do some squats here. It's fine. I was like, no, I have to be like in my gym gear. I have to get to the location. I have to do the class. You're not a mum. You don't understand. Yeah. But again, it was just like carrying through these beliefs that I had of like, it had to be done this way. And then, so again, it's not difficult in the way of like what it actually physically requires, but it's just those small mental shifts.
Absolutely. In your current routine, how do you, because now with a 1-year-old, so you kind of would have been, so your middle child would have been about 4 when your youngest was born. So you were probably in a good routine again, and then having another baby. I know,
totally.
like at that,
we went back to the trenches.
Yeah, at that 1-year-old stage, it can still, depending on how your baby's sleeping, it can still be a little bit of a juggling act. I mean, it always is.
Absolutely. And she's over 1 now and still not sleeping through the night. Like I'm up, 3-4 times a night. But hanging on to that and like, but to be honest, like it doesn't faze me now, because I'm like, what happens in the night happens in the night. I cannot change that once the morning comes.
So you don't even like give it the headspace now?
I don't even give it the headspace. And so many mothers I looked at, doing school drop off, the questions would be, oh, how's she sleeping? How was last night? And I didn't really like answering it in the end, because it's just so irrelevant. Like I know it comes from a good place, but it's really irrelevant. Come the morning time, I cannot change it anymore. I'm just and then you're just looking at the positives, right? Just find something to be grateful for. I'm grateful that she's healthy. I'm grateful that she wakes up. I'm grateful that I can feed her. There's just so many things. And I know, again, it's really easy to say this and do this now. But it is just about those little shifts where I'm not letting that affect me anymore. So like, it's happened. This is just how life is. And if it was a big enough deal for me, you always have a choice. So what you're not changing, you're choosing. So if I am choosing to continue to feed her at night, so she's 16 months now, if I'm choosing to do that, then I'm not going to complain about that. So often we sort of tend to get stuck and held up on complaining about certain aspects of our life, but we're not taking any action to change them.
Even if it is something you're actively choosing as well. That really just hit home for me. I feel like I'm very guilty of that in some areas with my kids, things that I'm choosing to do because I want to do that. I'm also complaining about them, and I'm probably sabotaging myself in some ways with that. So I needed to hear that today.
Self-sabotage that comes in. I love that. And again, so that's just a little mindset shift as well. So it's these little ways that they're so small. It's such a small shift, but it can make such a big impact on your reality.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because at the end of the day, we are all creating our own realities. And then again, it's linking that, become the main character, take the responsibility, be at cause, And if you don't like it, change it or keep going. Yes, it's tough,
Yes.
but if you're choosing to continue to feed, I'm not saying that it's not difficult and there's not challenging times. By God, like it is, being a mum, unless you've been a mum, you'll never
Yeah.
understand. And it is one of the most difficult and continues to be. You don't reach a point in motherhood where it's automatically easier or you don't worry. Every single, stage in your
Yeah.
child's life is just a different stage, but it is equally as
Yeah.
challenging. I've got Remy is at school now, and so yeah, he's not like breastfeeding in the night, but now the challenges are around how is he with his peers? Is he getting bullied at school? How are we going to
Yeah.
navigate these talks? And what's right and wrong and what? Yeah, so there's always going to be constant challenges.
Yep.
And so it's not about waiting for it to get
Yeah.
easier. It's about shifting the mindset of taking the responsibility on now and realizing that you're in control and you always have a choice. And then how can you make changes to better equip you with having a more, wholesome, fulfilled, enjoyable
Yeah.
life,
Yeah. It's so beautiful.
which is essentially what it comes down
Yeah.
to, right? Like I just want mums to be like happier each day with their life because it can be such a really, yeah, consuming period as soon as they step into that motherhood that they weren't prepared
Yeah.
for. And then if you can't see a way out, you can't see a way out, which I completely can relate to
Yeah.
as
And you
well.
don't want to miss it. Like you said, it does go by really fast
Completely.
too. So
Yeah.
like you want to, like, yes, there are parts that are very challenging, incredibly challenging, but it also is quite fleeting. So if you just focus on that, like you said, you're missing all the joy and fun to be had in this season as
Absolutely.
well. I think that's really important to know. And
Yes,
it's cool. I know you said
it
this
is.
earlier, but you actually see that transformation with your clients. That must be such a beautiful transition to see.
It is, especially when and you can just so relate to it when they first come to you, and there's just, and you can relate to how they're struggling so much in, in, not having any connection with themselves. And then it's other little things like their environment. So maybe, their social circle. So we are the average of the 5 people that we spend the most
Mm.
time with. So if you are around, 5 of your closest friends are all in a more negative headspace, um, not having it's not really a supportive environment for
Mm.
you. And then as much as you're trying to be positive, you've still got this sort of social situation going on over here that's bringing you down a little bit. So it's even just becoming, you've got yourself and the connection that you need to find again within yourself and what's important to you, your beliefs, your thoughts, your values. But then it's also looking at your
Mm.
environment and how could you change this to better support you as well.
Yeah, that's powerful as well.
And so, yeah, once we look at those and like your home environment, because I was really guilty of just saying that I had to clean, my house had to be clean all the time. And so I didn't have the time for
Mm.
myself. So it's like, how can you set up your home environment to better support your
Yes.
wellness?
It's
And so
so
there's it all
interconnected.
goes hand in
Yeah.
hand. It is, yeah. And so it's looking at these different aspects and then bringing it all together. And then all of a sudden they've got some tools and they've created enough change to give them the momentum to then essentially do wellness differently.
Yeah.
They've become the main character in their life again and they're able to step forward with that confidence and with that clarity.
I love that. And I love how you
And
keep
yeah,
referencing the main character as well, because you're so right. As moms, we are generally not putting ourselves as the main character. We're like the supporting actress for
completely.
everyone else.
We are like that. Not yet,
Yeah.
absolutely. And that just goes around like, if you imagine a movie set completely, we are not that main character that everyone's come to see. We are just that that supporting actress that's just doing all the background stuff to keep everyone and life going forward.
Yeah.
As mums, like it's not only your kids that you're looking after, it's maybe your partner, your husband, the dogs, the house, the mental load, all of that
Yeah.
is so consuming. And so we really take a back seat. And then so if you switch it up and you're like becoming that main character in your life again, and that's not to say you're pushing
Yeah.
everyone else aside and not still, taking consideration, putting everyone else, you can still take care of everyone else
Yes.
around you and also find a way to do that for yourself as well.
It is so powerful, that
And that's what I
change.
love helping mothers to see. Yeah.
It's huge because I think what a lot of I try to I try to balance how I talk about moms having time for themselves because one of the benefits is, how you show up for everyone else. But I think it's also important to
Yes.
note that it's also just your own experience because your purpose of doing things isn't just for everyone else. It's for your own joy and happiness in your own life. And yeah, like you said, being your own main character is really important to keep that in mind as well. It's not just about filling our cups so we can keep pouring into other people. It's like, no, you have a cup and you deserve to fill it just for you as well. Like, let's forget about everyone else for a moment.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love the thought of having the cup, the cup is always full and then it's the overflow. We're just like retopping. So the
Yes.
cup is for us and the cup is always full for us. And then we're just topping, we've got an overflow, which is here for everyone
Yes.
else.
That's a better way to phrase it.
Because I've always, the phrase of, where you've got to fill up your cup. Yeah, but then you're just pouring out
Yep.
of it again for everyone else. But how about we work on like, how can we keep our cup full? And that's the little things like where you feel connected to yourself. There's little moments in the day that bring you joy. You know what brings you happiness. Otherwise, like, what's
Yeah.
the point in life, really? Like, when we can get into like the universe and like why we're here. Um, but yeah, otherwise we can just go through the years and we're not actually enjoying
Yeah.
it.
Making yourself
We're
a
just going through the
priority. Yeah.
motions.
Making yourself and your own joy a priority. And like you said,
Yes.
it can be years because you're so bogged down with, putting everyone else's needs first. I think that's such an important shift.
Yes,
Well, I want to ask you a
definitely.
couple of questions that I always ask all of our guests, and I'm excited to hear your answers.
Sure.
I'm just getting them up, so I actually asked them the right way. Okay. What is one piece of advice you'd give yourself in your first pregnancy?
You're right. Yes, I love this. So going back to my first pregnancy, the piece of advice I would give is to trust your
Mm,
body and really find that connection between yourself and your body. Because when I reflected on going back to my first pregnancy and potentially why it ended up as an emergency cesarean, we'll never know, but I felt really disconnected. Um, my body was like down here doing one thing, and like I was up in my head and I was like, this is shit. Like, I can't do this. Like, why is, like, and I felt reflecting on it now, I was really disconnected. Whereas like we're all one, like your mind, body, soul, it's all working together. Your body knows what it needs to do. And I think it was just having that trust and working with it rather than against
mm.
it
That's really good advice.
is what I would love to, go back and just tell her because, yeah, and you never know how things may have turned out. And what was, is, completely fine. But it's just interesting to reflect on how, quite disconnected I was in terms of mind from body.
Yeah, no, that's a good one. And I think, especially in pregnancy, when you have so much happening, it's a really good time to tap into that because you're going to need it through postpartum as well and through birth,
Yeah.
obviously.
Absolutely. And through, and even like into motherhood these days, like you don't tap into your body enough. Your body's giving you little signs that it needs some care. And this is something I see often in motherhood. We wait so long before we do something about it. So it's not until someone's like really got an injury that's causing them pain that they might come and do
Yes.
Pilates, to fix that pain. Whereas like if we've just done it from the start, if we're just taking care of our body from the start, because our body is always speaking to us, right?
Yep.
It's giving us little hints, it's giving us little nudges. And are we listening to it? Are we taking that time to connect to ourselves and listen to what it needs before it becomes, a bigger problem and too
Yeah,
late?
absolutely. Yeah,
And then
we can always use that. I love that. And then this
yes,
might lead into the next question, but what is one piece of advice you'd
yeah,
give yourself as a new mom? So either with your first, second, third, or just all of
yes,
it as a new mom, what would you?
all of
Yeah.
them. Yeah. So like all of them came up, and I think it's so, it's applicable throughout motherhood in general, but it's just trust. It's just a season. So I love to think about each season of motherhood and whatever you feel like that you're in right now. And I get it. Like it feels like it's all consuming and it's really intense for mothers when they're going through it. But I love to help mothers be able to see that it's just a season in their life. So whether that's the breastfeeding journey that they're on now, whether it's like, starting solids and that's quite a struggle for some mums, or whether it's the sleeping, or the, weaning off the boob, or going to daycare and we're struggling with, the daycare drop-offs and whatever it might be. So wherever you are and those struggles, it is just a season. And allowing, that mindset shift and then to really zoom out from it takes the intensity away from that moment and allows you to deal with it better.
No, that's such a good point. And there's always going to be another season, but I think especially in that first postpartum journey, you don't have that experience of just knowing that, okay, it can feel like forever in the moment, but it will pass. And that is something that comes with experience. Thankfully, I remember thinking
absolutely. And I'm completely different now. Yeah, with my third than I was to my first. Yeah, you're in and you're ticking off every developmental stage and are they sitting yet? Are they crawling? Are they and it's like so consuming. Whereas now it's like it's okay. Like she's gonna walk when she walks, and if she hasn't walked by 12 months, it's okay.
100%. No, that's really good advice.
Yeah.
And then what's one thing our listeners can do today to improve their well-being? You've given us so many tips throughout the episode, but just if you could pick one.
For me, I think the biggest one is to focus on your well-being instead of just adding on another little habit or another little routine to your already busy enough schedule. Strip it all back and come back to what thoughts am I having on the daily, and just so being aware, doing an audit on your thoughts, and so just let them occur throughout the day, but just be aware of what thoughts am I actually having, how am I speaking to myself, am I using terms like I don't have time, I can't do this, I'll join the gym when she starts school, and because a lot of this is placing the blame outside of us, and that does not result in action or change. So it's really being aware of how the language you're using, how you're using, your words and your thoughts, and then how can we switch that up and what change can you make today and take the responsibility to take some sort of action moving forward.
Yeah, I love that. And again, I know I've said this word so many times for this episode, but it is so powerful and empowering. So thank you so much for sharing that with us today and all of your wisdom.
My
I
pleasure.
feel like you've given myself and the listeners a lot to think about and apply to my own life. So I appreciate it. Where can the listeners find you? How can they work with you if they want more of this?
Yeah, sure. So at the moment, it's my Instagram, which is my name. We might leave it somewhere.
I'll put it in the show notes.
Priya Campbell _. Yeah, yep. And so I'm just in the process of we just started back in this, the school year and everything. So I'm in the process of refining my offers and popping out I have just been doing one-on-one coaching, and then I've got a self-paced program that'll be coming out soon as well. And then I also run events throughout the year. So that's just a time for mothers to come and take some time out for themselves.
Beautiful.
And that's a bit of movement, mindset work, and just some time to nourish their own soul. So those offers will be available, on my Instagram, and I'll speak about them, as they're coming up.
Perfect.
So that's the best place to find me.
Okay, I'll put your Instagram handle in the show notes. And I wish I was in Melbourne to do your events. If I'm ever down there, I'm definitely going to try to go to one.
Yes. Or I will fly up to Gold Coast.
Yes, do an event here. I'd love that.
Do one up there.
Perfect. Yes. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Priya. It's been such a pleasure. And
thank you for having me. I've really enjoyed it. So thank you.
Thank you so much for spending time with me today. I hope you found inspiration and empowerment in this episode. If you enjoyed it, I'd be so grateful if you could share it with another mom who could use a little extra support or encouragement. By sharing, you're helping us build a community of strong, empowered mamas who are thriving in motherhood together. If you have a moment, please leave a quick review and rating. It really helps more moms like you find the show and feel supported on their journey. For more simple and transformative practices, come connect with me on Instagram at mama_time_yoga. I'd love to hear from you. Don't forget to hit follow so you never miss an episode. And until next time, take care of yourself, mama. You've got this.